Well, I should begin, as we did in committee today, with a moment of silence for those that were killed and wounded in Las Vegas. It was 50 people died, 400 people injured, in what is truly an horrific attack, an horrific assault, an horrific event. And so, to all those who are affected and are affected, and we say prayers for you, as the president did about 30 minutes ago. And we also say thanks to the first responders, many of whom just rushed onto the scene with a handgun into what was clearly a very dangerous situation. I would have to observe that this was clearly an automatic weapon, probably an assault rifle. I don't know that for a fact in this moment, but I would say to you that if it's an assault rifles are weapons of war. There is no justification for civilians having assault rifles. I'm proud to live in a state like Maryland in which that is not possible. I give credit to Jamie Raskin and Rich Madaleno, Brian Frosch, and others who made that possible in Maryland. It is not the case in Nevada. And I do think if we learn anything from incidents like this, it is true that there are people who are sick. It is true that there are people that will do bad things. We do not have to make it easier for them. And there simply is no justification for automatic weapons of this nature. So, with that, let me turn to county issues. I don't know how many of you followed the Purple Line briefing last week, but I generally was pleased with the information that was provided. Not pleased, of course, with the way in which the project began, but the concessionaire, among others, as well as the state, acknowledged that they weren't entirely pleased either. I would say that there are gaps, most notably with respect to those small businesses that will be impacted by the Purple Line, businesses that will not be bought, but businesses whose business will be adversely affected. As I've shared with you before, at the county level, we have programs that when a county project disrupts small businesses, we seek to take care of them. I have conferred with Senator Will Smith in our state legislature, and he is going to pursue legislation that would create a comparable program at the state level. And I do think that's a gap, and I was pleased to hear the state MTA representative acknowledge that he thought the program we had in Montgomery County was a good program, a model program, a program that the state ought to emulate, and I hope it will. Obviously, people are disappointed that the trail needs to be closed in its entirety. There is a question that's being raised as to whether or not there can be some exceptions for school children at certain times of the day with a gate that would open and be protected. So there are those ongoing issues. And obviously the community does desire greater transparency with respect to being notified of everything that will impact their lives. And I think we heard commitments to honor that desire. So we will be looking forward to the responses we get in writing in 2 weeks' time with respect to all the questions that, as our staff observed, really came from the community as much as our professional staff. Today marks the first day of our Ride On Extra service. I'm pretty excited about this service. I will get on it tomorrow morning at White Flint and hopefully take it right here, right close to here. This is a service that has 12 stops instead of 80. It has Wi-Fi. It has USB charging ports. It's got new buses, and the only thing lacking so far is Starbucks. So one day we will have that too. But it is an attractive bus. It is an attractive service. It is a precursor to bus rapid transit. It is so important, in my judgment and the judgment of many of us, that our county have one of the finest transit systems anywhere. It is foundational to quality of life. It is foundational to social justice. It is foundational to economic growth. Transit is the 21st solution to congestion, the 21st century solution to congestion. So I'm real pleased that we're doing it and pleased to join them tomorrow. They, I think, have had a press event today that I was in committee doing my work, so I couldn't join them for that, but I will join them tomorrow. On Wednesday, we have Walk to School Day, a day to highlight the need to have, our kids be healthy and walk to school and to be safe in doing so. We have some work still to do with respect to that. I was pleased that as a result of efforts of myself and others that we now have Hawk signals in Montgomery County. We have them at BCC High School now, and hopefully we will have them in other places so that our kids and our community is safer as they walk. We need to make our county a pedestrian safe community. We will be seeing the county's Vision Zero action plan will be released, I believe, in a couple of weeks, if not a month. There's been some public conversation with respect to it. I understand we're getting close. It is the result of legislation that I sponsored and the council unanimously approved to have a Vision Zero plan. And so look forward to getting that plan from them and reviewing it and making sure that we're doing all the things we can do to eliminate deaths in Montgomery County as a result of crashes. Many of you know that we no longer call them accidents. We call them crashes. And that's because almost every one of these is a function of not being attentive when you need to be attentive. Tomorrow we will take up, and I know without having talked with all of my colleagues, that we will have a unanimous vote on the gang suppression supplemental. We are spending approximately $25 million a year now on positive youth development, doing what we can to create an environment in which our kids feel like they are supported and so that they don't need or feel compelled to join a gang. But actually, most of the kids that join a gang are doing so because they are themselves victims. So we need to have more police work. We need to have more state prosecution. And that's what these dollars will provide. And so I know that all of my colleagues feel that this is a high priority, and we have basically given, in my judgment, the county executive, our police, and our state's attorney a blank check. You tell us what you need, and from my perspective, we will provide it. So this is the first of such efforts. It may not be the last. With that, I'll turn it to you guys.
With what happened in Las Vegas this morning, does it give you any more pause and consideration with expanding security at public buildings or at schools? Even, this summer the council put in security here, for something that could happen, like happening in Las Vegas.
I believe the measures we've adopted here are appropriate. I don't believe that there are any measures that could protect us from assault rifles. So what you saw in Vegas is somebody shooting out of a hotel window with an assault rifle. There is nothing that any of us in public life can do other than say we should not have assault rifles. So the public policy pieces of this, in my judgment, are fairly limited. I think our school system recognizes the work that it needs to do to make our school system safe. They've been on that issue now for some period of time. But again, I don't think we can make people safe from people who are walking around with assault rifles.
Well, do you feel confident that since Maryland has an assault weapons ban, that something like what happened in Las Vegas won't happen here?
No, because people can put it in their car from Nevada and drive to Maryland. I mean, no, it's the right thing to have done. Does it prevent things of this nature? I wish I could say it does. But we have done what we can do. That's all you can ask.
Would you want to see that ban expanded? You said they're weapons of war and they have no place, but do you want to see police departments then not have AR-15s or not have those
No,
types of weapons?
I trust our police. I trust our law enforcement agencies to use these weapons appropriately. I don't believe they are appropriate for civilian use. And I would, were I in a position to do so, I would say that they should be banned throughout the country. That this is one of those issues where Congress needs to act. We've had members of Congress that have been affected. We have had too many deaths from weapons that have no place in civilian hands.
Are you for even broader gun control, handguns, things like that?
I am someone who does believe in gun control. So that would be my answer. What else, gang? We didn't give you a teaser this week because we didn't actually have such breaking news, and so we thought it would be a bit of a scrum this morning.
Is there anything about the new ride-on bus, the new extra bus, that could replace BRT in fact, as much as it has lots of benefits, it's inexpensive compared to BRT, and it's easy to implement?
I think it is a step towards it, but not a replacement of it. Because dedicated lanes are what make BRT. And so if you really want to have a top-notch transit service, you are going to want to have dedicated lanes as much as possible. So that's the fundamental difference.
But dedicated lanes are what make BRT expensive.
Oh, yes, and it also is what makes it so much more desirable, because you are going faster than the traffic. You are in your own lane. You are waving goodbye to the traffic. So, and it is what will attract choice riders. Okay? And that's what we need to do with Bus Rapid Transit. We need to get you and I out of our cars on a service that we say to ourselves is more comfortable, we are more productive with our time, and gets us there faster. You do all those things, we will have a transit system that gets people out of their cars, and that's what we're trying to do.
Forgive me, I wasn't here last week, but does Governor Hogan's $9 billion plan negate an ability to move forward with Bus Rapid Transit? And have you talked to state highway folks about, is there room for that? Is that part of their equation?
Well, unfortunately, I felt that their proposal for express lanes was not the same as our county's proposal for high occupancy toll lanes that would give priority to express buses, carpools, and vans. So I felt that that was a deficiency of the governor's proposal. And my hope, again, is that that's the beginning of the conversation, not the end of the conversation. That the governor's proposal, there's an expression, he's in the right church but the wrong pew. It's important to focus on the need for congestion relief. It's important to have that conversation, and then it's important to be smart about it. And so I am hoping that he will engage in this conversation. I would say to you, the broader question that was raised last week, and I thought it was a fascinating conversation, was the autonomous vehicle conversation. That, to me, is something that we're all trying to get our minds around, the implications of that. and the implications of that for multi-billion-dollar investments that you are planning for over a 30 to 40 to 50-year time horizon. And how do you do that in a world in which you're now looking at some revolutionary technology that could come before us in the next 5 to 10 years? What does that say about these investments? And I think all of us are struggling to figure out what that means. But I would just say to you that some of the testimony we received suggested that you need less lanes because your cars will be smaller. Your cars will be smaller because instead of having 4,000 pounds of steel wrapped around you to protect you, with autonomous vehicles, you don't need 4,000 pounds of steel around you because you are already protected by the technology. So all your vehicles are smaller, and then you have lanes that are shrinking in size. And so instead of building 4 additional lanes, maybe you're doing something different. So that to me is going to be a very interesting conversation going forward, and one that I hope we will embrace with a positive attitude, because it is the future, and we would not be well served not to do everything we can to wrap our minds around it.
The council is taking a look at spending affordability guidelines for the capital budget. Do you think these guidelines should be reduced? Are debt limits in Montgomery County getting too high, or is debt service payments getting too high to be sustainable?
So we have in our county a 10% guideline when it comes to debt. We are over that and on a trajectory to get closer to 12%. We take seriously in our county, and with great pride, the fact that we have a AAA bond rating. And that is important. So I do believe that the county executive was right to suggest to us that this is an issue we need to pay attention to, that this is a matter that we need to get a little more control on. The committee did not embrace the county executive's precise solution, but did embrace, in my judgment, the spirit of the issue by saying, yes, this is something we need to attend to, and therefore we need to, over time, begin reducing the amount of debt. We are hearing from the school community in particular the concerns about it, because as many of you know, I have been among those that feel very strongly that we need to do more to address school overcrowding. In fact, I had a proposal actually to bond our recordation tax in order to be able to do more. And so the county executive and his people have come over and said, Council President, not clear that it's the right time to do that proposal, given that we are now trying to reduce our bonding. So my belief is that this is one of the prices we pay for having a AAA bond rating, and of making sure that we do what we need to do in order to honor our own guidelines. Now, if we were to change our guidelines and say actually 10% isn't right, that we should do 12%, we can have that conversation. But if we're not prepared to have that conversation, then we should honor what we have said we would do. But we can't do that. I thought the committee was basically saying, we hear you, County Executive. We think that this is, in fact, a serious issue, but your proposal would be too wrenching to projects that are in the pipeline now. We need to be mindful of those projects as well. And so I think they tried to find the sweet spot, if you will, in recognizing the validity of the concern, but trying to minimize the disruption.
Are you of the mind that maybe the county should increase its guidelines to say 12%? Do you think that would be advantageous to build more schools here?
Well, certainly. So the counter-argument, and I've been bullish on using debt, part because with inflation so low that you say to yourself, boy, this is a time. But actually what happens is over time, you pay the price for that. And so it is now, I think, the third highest department in county government is paying off our debt. It means that there's less dollars available for operating. It competes with funding the school's operating budget and everything else, police, parks, etc. So it's not like it comes free, even though dollars right now are not expensive because of inflation. So it isn't looking at it in a moment in time, it is looking at it over time, and that's what makes it so difficult.
How did we get here? Did Leggett's smart growth plan affect this? The fact that the county has been kind of slow selling off land that it didn't plan to sell after moving things away from metro stations?
I haven't seen the analysis. I was under the impression that it actually predated the county executive. I believe that there was a time in the former county executive's reign that we ramped up spending in that manner rather considerably. So I don't think one lays this at the doorstep of the county executive. Have we done our work, guys? Going once, going twice. We are done for the morning. Thank you.